Hey everyone, this is Sportsman Pariente, and after waiting for 5 days for the Western Conference Finals to finish, the NBA Finals have been set, and it will be the New York Knicks representing the Eastern Conference taking on the San Antonio Spurs representing the Western Conference. And the irony of this matchup is the last time the New York Knicks made the NBA Finals back in 1999, their opponent was the San Antonio Spurs. I don't need to remind Knicks fans, obviously, who won that series. It was not the Knicks. So, yeah, let's not talk about that. Anyway, that being said, this series is going to be very interesting for a lot of reasons. Obvious, because I think myself and a lot of people did not think the Spurs would beat the Thunder based on the fact that the Thunder, had more experience. The Spurs, they're young. They're probably not quite ready to meet the moment yet. Well, that did not happen. When Victor Wembanyama showed why he might arguably be at this point might be the best basketball player in the world right now, because people at 7'5" should not be able to shoot threes, block, dribble, play defense, do everything that he can do on a basketball court. It's unreal what he's doing, and he's not even 23 years old. That's just insane. Then you have players like Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle. You have Champagnie. You've got Harrison Barnes, even at his age, coming off the bench. Keldon Johnson coming off the bench. This team is way ahead of schedule. And that's going to be a very interesting challenge for the Knicks, because this will probably be the toughest challenge they've had so far in these playoffs. Because if you look at the Knicks' run, and I'm not going to downplay the run like a lot of other people have, saying, oh, well, the Knicks got lucky, oh, they were playing teams that had a lot of injuries, or they were playing teams that don't play defense well, or they played a team that doesn't have a big man who can counter Towns or Mitchell Robinson. That's just BS. We can say whatever we want about the Eastern Conference. The bottom line, the Knicks have won 11 straight playoff games, and outside of the Game 2 win over Philly, which was by 6 points, and the game against the Cavs where the Knicks were down 22 and had to come back and force overtime and win, the Knicks are blowing people out in these playoffs because of their offense and their defense. Now, that aside, the Knicks and Spurs have played 3 times this season. One of them happened to be the NBA Cup, a game which the Knicks won 124-113. That was also a game the Knicks were down, I think, double digits after halftime and rallied thanks to OG and Tyler Kolek and some of those guys. The other 2 games, one was on New Year's Eve, a game where Wembanyama got hurt actually in the second half, and the Spurs were down double digits, and then they came back and beat us. And I think Knicks fans can remember that was around the time the Knicks season started to kind of crumble. That period from the end of 2025 till, I would say, the middle of January of 26, when the Knicks had that 3-9 stretch where they were giving up over 105 points per game. Their offense was coming apart. They lost that game, I think, at home to Dallas by 30 points when Cooper Flag didn't even play. And I think that was really the low point of this Knicks season for a lot of fans, myself included, where we thought, oh my God, what is happening? So this series is going to come down to quite a few X factors. One being, of course, can the Knicks do what they did against the Cavaliers, in the sense that really we saw for the whole Cavaliers series and also the Philadelphia series to an extent as well, where even if, let's say, the Sixers got a basket or the Cavaliers got a basket, within 2 seconds, the Knicks would get the rebound, get the ball down the court quickly, get into transition, and either hit Deuce or Shamet in the corner for an open three, or in the Cavaliers series, the Cavs just wouldn't get back, and Brunson or OG or whoever it was would run down the court and get an easy dunk or layup. I don't think that's going to happen against the Spurs because their defense is much better than Cleveland's. And can the Knicks get into transition to really kind of get their offense set before the Spurs can kind of set their defensive rotations? That's going to be very interesting in this series versus the other two series the Knicks have played. And obviously, Knicks fans, there is one major concern which I have to address, and that is the injury to Mitchell Robinson. Now, at this point, we still don't know how Mitch got hurt. We've heard, I thought he got hurt in Game 4 against the Cavs when there was a play where he went for a rebound. Then, after the play was over, he was holding his hand. I thought that's maybe where he suffered the broken pinky finger. Knicks have said, no, that's not how he suffered it. So we have absolutely no idea how he suffered it. I'm not going to get into all the theories, and that's, But what is worrisome is that he did have surgery on the finger, and at this point, from what I've seen, and from what Mike Brown said yesterday in a press conference, it's not clear if Mitch will play in Game 1. He still has not been... Mitch has said he will play. He wants to play, obviously. He's been with the Knicks longer than anyone, even when the Knicks were winning 20 games at one point in the season. So Mitch says he'll play. How effective he'll be if he plays is going to be very interesting. And at this point, doctors have not cleared him, so we don't know if Mitch will play in Game 1, and if he does, what can he do defensively? Can he be the shot blocker and be the defensive player he's been and really make Wembanyama's life difficult in the paint? Is he going to be able to get rebounds? Is he going to be able to shoot free throws? This is going to be a really big factor because if Mitch can't go, Towns obviously would have to be the primary defender. And Towns, we saw in the Philadelphia series and a little bit in the Cleveland series, we saw him get into foul trouble in Game 1 against the Cavs. We saw it a lot in the Phillies series as well where Towns got into foul trouble. That's going to be a concern because other than Towns, if Mitch can't go, the only other big guy the Knicks have that could maybe play defense on Wemby or be in the paint is Hukporti. And in that Game 2 against Philly where I think Mitch couldn't play due to an injury or a virus, I'm not quite sure what that was all about. In 10 minutes, Hukporti picked up 4 fouls. So I don't know if Hukporti, in that game when he was guarding Embiid, will he be able to handle a player like Wembanyama? I don't know. So that's going to be very interesting. Also very interesting, will the Spurs double team Brunson like they did against SGA in the conference finals, especially when Jalen Williams went down and when AJ Mitchell went down and the Thunder's depth was a little bit hurt and their playmakers were out of commission. So Castle will likely be guarding Brunson. It's going to be very interesting how Brunson handles that challenge, as we saw Detroit kind of do last year when they kind of double teamed him and made Brunson's life difficult in that first round series. And can Landry Shamet and Deuce McBride shoot the ball the way they have at times in the playoffs? We saw Deuce McBride have that amazing game in Philadelphia in Game 4 where I think he hit 7 threes in the first half. And we saw Landry Shamet in the conference finals against Cleveland hit, I think, 11 of 12 three-pointers. If the Knicks shoot the three-pointers like they have in these playoffs, it's going to be very hard for San Antonio, I think, to keep up offensively with the Knicks. And also, if Shamet and Deuce can hit the threes, it stretches out the court for Towns to maybe shoot a few threes. It opens things up for Bridges to attack the paint in the mid-range game. It opens things up for OG in the three-point range and even in the mid-range for OG as well to maybe make some shots and take pressure off Brunson and Towns. But defensively, everyone wants to talk about the Knicks, and their Knicks defense really for most of the year outside of January and maybe the beginning of the year has been really good as well. It's not quite the defense the Knicks had when Tom Thibodeau was the coach, when opponents would barely get over 100 points when they would play the Knicks. It's not quite that level of defense, but the Knicks can force you into turnovers, as we saw against Cleveland and as we saw against Philadelphia. And in the latter half of the Atlanta series, we saw the Knicks kind of establish their defense and really throw off McCollum and those guys, and that really started to the domino effect where the Knicks really their offense and everything started to go off on this run. And it really is going to come down to the role players. Can the Knicks force Castle and Harper into turnovers? De'Aaron Fox, that's going to be very interesting what his role is going to be. He is, from what I understand, fully healthy. He missed 2 games in the conference finals due to a high ankle sprain he suffered against the Timberwolves in the second round. But he had his best game, arguably, in the playoffs in Game 7 in OKC. So De'Aaron Fox can certainly handle the ball, which would take pressure off Castle and Harper, because Fox is a veteran and he understands, okay, here's my role. I know how to get the ball around, and I know how to handle the pressure maybe more than the young guys do. And another thing which is really kind of concerning me for the Knicks, aside from Mitchell Robinson's injury and how effective he'll be, a lot of Knicks fans are ignoring the fact De'Aaron Fox used to play for Mike Brown in Sacramento. If anybody understands the Knicks offense and how to maybe dissect it, how to handle it, De'Aaron Fox can certainly give the Spurs tips of, okay, here's what the Knicks are going to run, and here's how we can counter that by doing X, Y, or Z. So that's going to be very interesting. Can Mike Brown make more adjustments to his system? Because if he's running similar stuff to what he did in Sacramento, I mean, the Spurs are going to know the Knicks plays before the Knicks even run them. That's a very big concern that I think a lot of Knicks fans are not recognizing at this point. And we also ignore the fact, taking away Mitchell Johnson, who's done a phenomenal job as head coach with the Spurs, they still have Greg Popovich up there in the box as team president. And on a few occasions on this playoff run, he's actually come into the locker room to give the Spurs tips and, from what I understand, even question their effort in some of their losses against Minnesota and in Game 3 against the Thunder, where the Spurs opened the game on a 15-0 run and then blew that game. After the game, Popovich went into the locker room, lit into the team, and told them, you've got to play better. Next game, the Spurs went out and beat, I think, the Thunder by 25 or 30. I don't remember what the score was in Game 4, but it was a blowout. And Mike Brown used to work under Greg Popovich, so Greg Popovich will certainly know maybe Mike Brown's systems, and he can certainly advise his team how to handle that, what to look for, how to attack it. So I think in terms of depth, the Knicks have the edge based on how Shamet and Deuce have been playing, and the fact that Bridges and OG have been playing as well as they have throughout these playoffs. But when I see Knicks fans saying, oh, well, the Knicks are going to win this series in 4, or the Knicks will win in 5, well, we're not worried. I don't know about that, because we've seen the Spurs handle adversity at numerous points in this postseason. Obviously, what they did last round against the Thunder. They lost Game 1 of the Minnesota series at home, came back and won Game 2, and then took home court back in Game 3 against a team that had a lot more experience than they did. And they won a game in Portland in the first round, I think, where they were down 20 and Wemby couldn't play because he had a concussion. And the Spurs came back and won that game. So to sit here and say, oh, well, the Spurs can't handle adversity, they're too young, they're not quite ready to meet this moment, it's possible. But based on what we've seen so far in these playoffs, it's also possible that once again the Spurs will meet the moment and maybe even surprise more people than we anticipate. This is, going to be the toughest challenge the Knicks have faced throughout this playoff run. We can't ignore what the Spurs have done. And when I hear, oh, well, the Spurs only beat the Thunder because of injuries. Well, the Spurs had injuries to De'Aaron Fox and Dylan Harper in the last round. They handled it, took care of business. So, injuries, I don't want to hear that the injuries are an excuse, just like when I hear people say, oh, well, the Knicks didn't beat anyone good. They didn't beat Detroit. They didn't beat Boston. They beat a Cleveland team that doesn't play defense. Cleveland totally choked in game one. That threw the whole series. Bottom line, Knicks have won 11 in a row and they're dominating teams. I don't want to hear that, as I said earlier. Now, another factor for game one on Wednesday night, will the Knicks come out rusty? Because again, the Knicks have not played since last Monday when they swept Cleveland. Will they be rusty like they were after their sweep over Philadelphia? And then in game one against Cleveland, the Knicks came out flat. Cavs took advantage, even though the Cavs only had basically one day off after they finished their series against Detroit. And then they were up 22, and then I still don't know how the Knicks came back in that game because Cleveland, my goodness me, choked that game. Choked that game away. I don't think if the Knicks fall behind by 20 against the Spurs, I don't think the Spurs are blowing a 20-point lead. That's not going to happen. So the Knicks really, I think they have to take game one because you want to set the tone early. Again, the Knicks will not have home court in this series. The Spurs will have home court because they won 62 games this year. Knicks won, I believe, 51 or 52. So the Spurs will have home court. So for the Knicks, they have to split. Preferably take game one, but they have to get out of San Antonio with a split at worst. I think if the Knicks fall behind 0-2, it's going to be very hard to beat the Spurs 4 out of 5 to win the series. That's going to be a very hard ask. And will Brunson be able to hit three-pointers? He's kind of been struggling with that these last two rounds. Can Jalen Brunson hit threes, take some pressure off? Can he limit some of the turnovers that we saw in the Atlanta series when the Knicks were having some issues? Cat stay out of foul trouble, and can he handle maybe the pressure of guarding Wemby if Mitch can't go? Those are going to be very big determining factors in what happens. And can Harper and Castle take some pressure off De'Aaron Fox and Wembanyama? That's what this series is ultimately going to come down to. As far as who I think comes out of the series, as you can tell, even though it's not a Knicks shirt, it is blue, it is orange, and I've been a Knicks fan I'm not going to give away my age, but I remember watching the Knicks here and there when Marbury was on the team, when the Knicks were in really bad shape. I was there for the David Lee years. I was there when we had Jamal Crawford, Al Harrington. I was there when Linsanity took over New York City, when LeBron spurned us with the decision, when we had Amari, when we had Melo, and we thought maybe that was the first step in the Knicks emerging again from the doldrums. And we've seen the resurrection of the team since Jalen Brunson came to New York, when Tom Thibodeau literally resurrected this franchise from the gutter. And we've seen the rise of players like Josh Hart, Bridges, OG, all of those guys. New York has been waiting over 50 years for the Knicks to bring a championship back to Madison Square Garden and the city. And I believe that if Shamet and Deuce can shoot like they have, if Towns can continue to play like he's been playing, I believe the Knicks are going to do it, get revenge for 1999, and end the 53-year drought for the city of New York. And I believe the Knicks are going to win this series and bring the title home. I think this series is going to go 7. This is going to be an absolute war, but I think the Knicks are going to have just enough to pull it out. So that's my take. Please continue to subscribe to my channel, Sportsman Pariente. And go, New York, go.